The anomaly bled across Kale Voss's audit terminal, like a wound refusing to clot, a secret too large to cauterize.
Project Mirror. Level Omega clearance. DNA profiles of the entire Coalition Council.
His 4 eyes widened, chitin cooling with a dread no Coalition auditor should feel. His supervisor dismissed the alert as a misrouted decrypt ghost. Routine drivel. Ignore it.
That is not a ghost. That is a weapon aimed at everything we are.
Within the hour, he had booked unsanctioned passage to Earth, falsifying an inspection clearance to bypass protocol alerts. The facility sat half-hidden in desert rock, a concrete bunker with no transponder, no diplomatic tag, and 1 guard post. From orbit, the planet below looked placid, a blue marbled lie. Kale could almost taste the deception softening the air.
No standard transponder, no diplomatic clearance. They really don't want visitors asking questions.
He stepped off the shuttle and walked toward the unmarked bunker that, somewhere below, held the Coalition's darkest mirror. He held the falsified wafer to the scanner. No tremor in his hand, despite the chill along his carapace.
Too smooth. No challenge, no override. The system accepted a forged clearance like it was waiting for him.
The elevator dropped into bedrock, lights strobing with a mechanical pulse that counted down the meters of stone and silence above him. When the blast doors parted, the air turned thin and cold, laced with the low hum of life support compressors.
A cathedral of bodies, row after row of stasis pods, each face one I recognize from the chamber.
He stopped before a pod holding the pale orange features of Speaker Vrenthal, 4 eyes closed in suspended dreaming.
Every classified briefing, every memory, this copy has it all. They could replace him before breakfast.
He scanned the chamber again, doing the arithmetic no auditor was meant to solve. 40 years, every member.
I am not an auditor. I am a hostage with a badge.
He stood frozen among the sleeping duplicates, the weight of a geopolitical catastrophe pressing down with the dead air. The compulsion to document outweighed the wiser instinct to flee. He raised a scanning wand toward the pod's biometric port. The wand never made contact. A containment grid snapped across the aisle, red strobes flooding the chamber.
They were waiting. This was never an undefended secret.
Boots echoed from the darkness. 5, maybe 6. Armored human security closing in a half circle.
You are deeper than most auditors get. I appreciate thoroughness.
A human in a dark suit stepped into the pod glow, hands in pockets, half smile suggesting he already owned the room.
Kenneth Reeves, Earth Intelligence Directorate. Welcome to Project Mirror.
This is an act of war. You've cloned the entire council without consent, without notification.
It's been 40 years, Inspector Voss. Nobody's declared war. Think about why.
Kale's mandibles clicked once, the sound of an auditor who realized he hadn't uncovered a conspiracy. He'd walked into the center of one.
Director Kenneth raised a hand. A dusty authorization file shimmered into the air. Project Mirror, authorized under Earth's continuity protocols 40 years ago. Fully legal.
Kale's 4 eyes refused to blink. The human hadn't flinched. He'd handed over a confession and called it a certificate.
Kenneth walked, expecting Kale to follow. Each clone is raised in isolation, educated in Earth's culture. They understand our principles before adolescence.
Through an observation window, a classroom of young clones, alien children learning Earth's political history as if it were their own.
He tapped a console. A holographic diagram bloomed, twin brains linked by an amber data stream. We update them quarterly via remote scan. They have current memories.
The neural map glowed like a second confession. You are keeping living mirrors updated to the moment. That's not defense. That's a loaded weapon.
A sepia, toned still, replaced the diagram. Younger Kenneth shaking hands with a general. Built decades before my tenure. It has never been activated against any council member.
The image hung there, 2 humans sealing a bargain that would echo through 40 years. Every handshake in the coalition might have been shadowed by this room.
Kenneth turned, hands still in pockets. You'll be escorted to your shuttle. Report your findings to the Council. Transparency is the foundation of trust.
The corridor narrowed behind him, like a throat swallowing a secret. He wasn't escaping. He was delivering exactly what Kenneth wanted. The report waited in his hand like a thing that might bite. He had left Earth with a confession, and now the Confederation had to hear it.
I need to see Speaker Vrenthal. Immediately.
The aide attempted to schedule a routine filing, but Kale's inspector override cut through the bureaucracy like a blade. Minutes later, Vrenthal agreed to a private audience in his sealed quarters.
This is a fabrication. Earth could not have done this.
The empty council chamber waited in silence, its tiered seats an audience for the coming accusation.
I saw the pods. I saw your clone, identical down to the breathing pattern.
40 years. Every decision we made, every vote cast, they were watching inside our own minds. Then we will call an emergency session. No one leaves this room until the council is sealed.
The summons went out beneath an Omega-level blackout. By morning, every delegate would know their own face stared back from a cold Earth vault. The packed chamber held a stillness that felt heavier than gravity. A dread that something unspeakable was about to be made real.
4 days ago, I discovered a vault beneath Earth. It holds a clone of every member of this council.
He displayed the pod chamber images, Vrenthal's duplicate face serene in the cold blue light.
Project Mirror has been active for 40 years. Every one of you has a sleeping double, including you, Speaker.
The silence shattered. Delegates surged upright, voices clashing into a wall of noise. A reptilian delegate jabbed a claw toward the dais, voice slicing the noise. Earth had committed an unforgivable betrayal.
I will have order. This council will not dissolve into the very chaos our enemies predicted.
Slowly, the clamor condensed into a single demand. The architect of this atrocity must be brought before them.
Earth's director is already en route. Kenneth Reeves. He told me to deliver this evidence, then invite him to speak.
The word invite was a blade wrapped in protocol. They had demanded answers, and Earth had been waiting to give them all along. The doors opened, and Kenneth walked the center aisle as if invited to a celebration, his suit uncreased and his half-smile already waiting.
Kenneth Reeves, you stand accused of crimes against the Coalition. What possible justification can you offer?
Project Mirror is not an attack. It is a guarantee. For 40 years, not one council member has been harmed or replaced. The clones exist solely as deterrence. If any delegate took hostile action against Earth, we could quietly replace them, and politics would continue.
A ripple of alien horror moved through the chamber, not because the plan was cruel, but because it was mathematically sane.
I am telling you this because the record speaks. 0 activations, 0 replacements. 40 years of consequence-free deterrence.
That was the moment the room understood. Every vote that had never been cast against Earth, every policy deflected, had not been coincidence.
Ask your intelligence chiefs. Search your memories. Has any original been harmed? Number. Because you never gave us cause.
The chamber did not erupt. It sank into a terrified silence, each delegate suddenly aware of the ghost in their own past decisions.
You are telling us that our own caution against Earth was the mirror you held, and we never saw it.
A delegate's voice sliced through the stillness of the chamber. The question is not whether the system works. The question is whether the clones are alive.
They are biological constructs, grown to specification. Alive in a technical sense, perhaps, but they have no legal standing.
You raised them. You updated their memories. How can they not have a will of their own?
Their will is aligned with Earth's continuity. They have never objected to their existence.
Another voice from the shadows of the gallery. Have any of them ever refused a sync or asked to be terminated?
Number. The question has never arisen. They understand their purpose.
My clone, does it remember what I remember? The taste of my homeworld's reign. The sound of my first speech.
It remembers everything. That is the design.
The admission hung in the air like smoke. Every delegate imagined their duplicate, awake in the dark, knowing every secret they'd ever kept.
Then you have not created tools. You have created prisoners, and we will not let that stand.
During the recess, Kale pulled the technical logs from his initial scan. The sync timestamps told a story more intimate than any briefing. Kale found Kenneth in an anteroom, the neural link schematic still glowing on his palm, and laid out the unforgiving arithmetic.
You update them quarterly. They know our every classified word, every private concession. This isn't passive insurance, it's active espionage.
Of course. The deterrent is only effective if the replacement is perfect. They must think, feel, and remember exactly like the original.
The admission was so calm it slipped past morality and landed as pure mechanics. A copy, complete in every neuron, waiting for the switch.
Then they are not empty vessels. They possess the intellectual content of every member of this council, current, classified, actionable.
And yet, not one has ever tried to escape, to act independently, or to defy their programming. Ask yourself why.
Before Kale could answer, an aide burst through the door. The exchange had been monitored. The council's panic was already spreading. Whispers turned to shouts as the gallery absorbed the truth. Any clone could be activated remotely. A perfectly informed sleeper agent. The chamber doors opened to a gallery of accusing faces. The mirror had become a weapon, and every delegate now feared it was aimed at themselves.
I will now offer terms for the complete shutdown of Project Mirror. 3 conditions, and it's done. First, full disclosure to every delegate of the existence and details of their individual clone. Second, each clone will be offered coalition citizenship, with full rights and the freedom to refuse termination. Third, a formal statement that Project Mirror was never used offensively, and that its existence alone preserved peace.
The chamber was silent. He had handed them surrender, but the price was a mirror to their own ethics.
You would dismantle your greatest shield. What does Earth want from us?
Only that you prove your high principles are not empty. Grant the clones life, acknowledge the peace they ensured.
He's not giving up. He's forcing them to choose between 2 kinds of defeat, moral or political.
Delegates huddled, faces blank. The offer was flawless. Refuse and admit hypocrisy. Accept and lose the moral high ground.
This council will recess to deliberate. We will reconvene in 4 hours with our answer.
The private chamber swallowed all light beyond the table's edge, where senior delegates hunched in argument, like gamblers betting with a ghost.
Rejecting his terms will only harden Earth's position. We will look afraid of our own reflection.
A sharp voice cut back. If we yield, every minor power will try the same. The coalition would fracture.
My clone knows my guilt, my compromises, every hidden deal, and I am supposed to sit across from it.
The speaker's hand had not left the armrest for a full minute. The weight of a double life settled around his throat.
We will accept the terms, but with a single amendment, the clones must be awakened and assessed before we ratify citizenship.
Murmurs of resistance, then a slow accumulation of nods. The speaker's voice had cut the knot.
They're gambling on the clone's humanity. Kenneth's trap is already springing.
Vrenthal rose. The session would reconvene with a counteroffer. Earth could keep its word, but first, the council would meet its ghosts.
Inform Director Reeves we accept his framework, and tell the facility on Earth to begin the awakening protocols. It's time we met ourselves.
The awakening chamber felt like a morgue waiting to exhale. Every console operator held their breath, hands hovering above the release keys. A countdown lit the main screen, and with a subsonic hum, the stasis locks on the first row of pods released. Hatches hissed, mist rolling across the floor like the breath of something ancient. Kale watched from the observation gallery above. From the pod marked THX-001, a pale orange hand gripped the rim. and Speaker Vrenthal's duplicate pulled himself upright.
The cascade hit, a lifetime of speeches, bargains, the taste of rain, the taste of rain. Then awareness of the watchers.
His 4 amber eyes swept the chamber, then fixed on the observation window. He did not blink.
That clone knows exactly what this room is. He isn't confused. He's appraising.
Behind him, more pods sighed open. Other delegates' doubles stepped into the mist, each wearing the same disoriented calm. A human technician whispered into her headset. Mirror assets awake and ambulatory. No signs of distress. The words felt insufficient. Kale made a single notation in his report. The real test was about to begin. The door sealed behind him with a sound like a verdict. Across the bare room, his duplicate stood in a simple gray tunic, 4 eyes already watching.
I've been waiting. I always knew you'd come.
The voice was his own. A lifetime of politics had prepared him for many things, but not for the sound of his own conscience speaking aloud.
I am not a threat. I want to live, to contribute, not to replace you. Not to replace you.
The clone's expression was earnest, not pleading. A mirror that reflected his honor, not his fear.
You know my failures. How can you not resent me?
Because I understand why you made those choices. We are more alike than you fear.
The conversation stripped away the armor of office until only 2 Thalaxians remained, bound by the same history.
He is not a weapon. He is a witness, and that changes everything.
When he finally left, his stride was slower. The weight had shifted from dread to something like hope. A reptilian delegate wept openly as his clone held his hand, whispering a shared childhood memory neither had lived. Vrenthal had extended his hand to his clone before leaving, a gesture that cost him more than any vote. The clone took it without hesitation, the grip firm and equal, an unspoken pact. Across the hall, another delegate refused to look at his twin, ordering immediate termination. The clone simply nodded. Kale, moving through the corridors, recorded every outcome. The data told a story of shattered illusions.
These clones aren't just copies. They're an indictment of everyone who claimed moral superiority.
I have met my mirror. He is not a threat. He is a reminder of who we should be. The clones deserve a chance.
His words fell into a chamber already fracturing. Some nodded. Others turned away, clutching their fear.
He just put his career on the line, and he's not wrong.
By the time the session reconvened, the council was no longer unified. A faction had formed, armed with the speaker's unexpected alliance. Kale stepped up to the podium, a thin scroll of light humming from his palm, the Clone Rights Act, drafted with the living mirrors themselves.
Article 1. All synthetic sentients defined under Project Mirror are granted coalition citizenship, irrevocable and equal.
The charter shimmered with clauses, shaped by beings who hadn't existed a week ago. Every article was a negotiation with a reflection.
I second this act. Let the record show that we chose to be greater than our fear.
The vote was scheduled for the 3rd bell. No delay. No procedural sidesteps could diffuse what was now in motion.
40 years of patience, and they'll vote exactly as designed. The clones don't need orders. They share our values.
I am about to send my final audit. Whatever happens, this story will not be buried.
The chamber filled. Species who had ignored each other for decades now packed the tiered seats, drawn by the gravity of a new genesis. Kale's hand did not tremble. He pressed send. The mirror audit was now part of every coalition record.
The council will now vote on the Clone Rights Act. May clarity find us in this moment.
The tally climbed on every screen, a slow, silent verdict. When it froze 1 vote past the threshold, the chamber held its breath.
The Clone Rights Act is adopted. By a margin of 3 votes, sentient mirrors are citizens.
A ripple of gasps, then heavy silence. In the gallery, a reptilian delegate's hand clenched into a fist, then slowly relaxed. Clone Vrenthal, standing in the observation alcove, lowered his head. He remained still, but the light caught a glint of moisture.
Furthermore, each clone is offered an advisory role alongside their original. They understand us better than we understand ourselves.
Several delegates rose and walked out in rigid silence, their robes sweeping the marble like a final, futile protest.
The vote passed, but the real battle is whether they can coexist without fear, eating them from within.
A human aide pinned a silvery advisory badge onto the clone's tunic. The original Renthal watched from across the room, unreadable. The speaker's chair stood empty for the first time in decades. But the badge on its armrest caught the light, a silent promise. The session adjourned. The quiet that followed was not peace, but the first uncertain breath of a new order. 10 years. The capital's spirals had watched the sun race thousands of times, and nothing had broken. Now, the advisory halls hummed with doubled insight. Originals and clones bent over the same holos. Voting delays dissolved in hours. Every argument had a mirror that understood its weight. Through the grand corridor, two identical Thalaxians walked in step, their strides matching to the millimeter.
The trade amendment needs a regional stability clause, but the Rim factions
Will accept it if we anchor the wording to the Kale Accord. I was about to say that.
They had been finishing each other's sentences for years. No one could remember who started it.
The Sesame I-emmed numbers are finally aligning. Your push for agricultural reform made the difference.
Our push. I can't take credit for what we built together.
They turned the corner, and the capital's light folded them into its story. On a high floor above the decommissioned bunker, Kenneth Reeves watched the same corridor on a silent terminal.
A caged mirror rusts. A freed one illuminates. They never understood the second half.
He had waited decades for a crisis that would force the council's hand. The audit was never an accident.
Kale's discovery was the key I could not turn myself. He played his role perfectly. Liberate a colony, and it becomes a trading partner. Free a clone, and it becomes an ambassador.
His gamble had been simple. Clones raised in Earth's culture would vote, advise, and shape policy in Earth's image. Not through command, but through kinship.
And now the speaker's own clone finalizes trade deals that benefit Earth without a single coercive order.
He raised his glass, an old Earth ritual of quiet satisfaction, and let the silence of the watchtower confirm his thesis.
Project Mirror was never about replacement. It was about planting a garden 40 years in advance.
On the screen, the two identical figures turned another corner. Kenneth allowed himself a half-smile that held no cruelty, only the patience of a gardener who had planted a forest. Kale Voss walked the now familiar corridor to the speaker's office, his audit case lighter than it had been in a decade. Inside, the two Vrenthals leaned over a single datapad, their conversation a seamless weave that required no names.
The Arcturus food crisis resolution passed unanimously. Your wording on that was perfect.
Our wording. As always.
Kale paused at the threshold, watching the exchange like a man reading a proof he had once hoped for.
I came to see how you were, but I think I already know.
You gave us this, Kale. We have never forgotten.
The clone raised his cup, an old Thalaxian gesture, in silent salute. Kale lowered his mandibles in return.
The mirror I uncovered didn't shatter the galaxy. It polished it.
He left them to their report, the door closing on a shared understanding that felt, finally, like acceptance. A small Thalaxian child chased a human girl through the sunlit park, their laughter erasing decades of suspicion. In 1,000 advisory rooms, originals and clones bent over shared data streams, finishing each other's equations. Clone Vrenthal adjusted his advisory robes, the silver trim, now a badge of legitimacy, rather than a mark of origin, a reptilian original, and his clone presented a joint climate accord, their voices overlapping without discord for the first time. On a border world, clone medics and original physicians shared supplies without a second glance at their mirrored faces. The old fears became stories told to children who found the idea of suspicion between twins absurd. A clone child and an original child built a sandcastle together on a public plaza, their shapes indistinguishable in the afternoon light. The advisory badge caught the sun as Clone Vrenthal walked to a meeting, its weight now a symbol of earned respect. No one remembered Project Mirror as a threat. They remembered it as the beginning of a stronger union. and in the laughter of children who never knew the difference. The true legacy echoed. From the Capitol balcony, Kael Voss watched the two Thalaxians descend the grand staircase, their silhouettes merging at the edges. They moved without speaking, 4 amber eyes already knowing the other's thought. The light framed them like a single figure. Kael leaned on the rail, Starfield sprawling beyond the dome. The mirror had been terrifying, yes,
But terror forced the coalition to prove its ideals. Without that fear, we might never have grown.
He turned from the rail. Below, the decommissioned facility's main door was sealing for the last time. A small sign pulsed green. Project Mirror. Inactive. The bunker exhaled and stilled. 40 years of deterrence. 10 years of integration. And now, acceptance. Earth's mirror had shown them who they could be.
In the end, the galaxy didn't break under the weight of the truth. It stood straighter.
He walked away from the rail, leaving the stars to watch over the peace they had forged. And in the silence after the door's thud, the future sounded like children laughing. A human technician pressed a final seal against the bunker door, the green light pulsing once before fading into permanent silence. The last witness of Project Mirror turned away, leaving the desert to reclaim whatever memory remained. On the orbital station, Kael's terminal blinked a single notification: the mirror audit, final assessment. Status, resolved. He leaned back, the tension of a decade finally leaving his chitin.
All those years, and the galaxy didn't shatter. It learned to look itself in the eye.
The report scrolled into the archive, a footnote that history would carry without shame. Generations later, a Thalaxian child would ask why she had 2 grandfathers, and the answer would require no explanation. In every council chamber, the mirror's gift persisted, a second perspective born from the same truth. Kael shut down his screen, the starfield filling his view, infinite and calm. And in the quiet of resolved things, the universe continued, reflected, and a little more whole.